Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Real quick, if you guys could give this video a thumbs up, and if you're new to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because I upload new videos every week like this one. Okay, so today's video, I will be showing you how to draw realistic hair using color pencils. I was already working on Sia, so I knew this would be perfect to show a tutorial video on how I do hair. Also, if you guys could comment below if you'd like to see a separate video on how I color the bow, because I wasn't sure if that's something you guys would like to see. So let's get into it. Okay, so first what I'm doing is I am just outlining the bow with like a warm gray color. This is a Faber-Castell polychromo. That way I can just see where I start coloring the hair. So I'm just outlining the bow. I'm not going to do anything else with the bow, just getting the placement right before I start on the hair. The bow and the shirt is probably the thing that I will do last. Like I said earlier, if you guys would like to see a separate video on me doing the bow, just comment down below either yes, do a bow video, or if you guys would like to see it. But right now I'm just outlining it, that way the placement is right before I start on the hair. So that's all I'm doing right now, is just sketching it out with a warm gray color. And as you can see, it's a pretty big bow on Sia, so you'll want to create like a shadow before going into the bow, so that way you can kind of tell that the bow is actually sitting on her head. And that's what I'm doing, is just creating that shadow so you can see that the bow is sitting on her head. And then I'm just going to start sketching out the hair and how it separates from the black to the blonde. And so that's what I'm going to do here. And I'm still using the warm gray color. So for your first layer for the hair, you want to create just a base color. So I'm taking a prismacolor 10% French gray, and I'm just going to go through and do the whole hair that color, especially if you're going to be doing it on white paper. That way you can create it, that way it looks more realistic. You'll want to put that depth into it, and so I'm going to be using this and cover the whole hair. That way it kind of blends better, and then after you do the first coat, that's when you start, adding more layers in the colors. So in order to do this, you'll want to use very light pressure. And as I continue to color, you'll see that you can very faintly see this, but it is there. That way you just have that base color to rely on, but you definitely don't want to press hard at all, because the more layers, the more realistic it's going to look. So just very lightly pressure, and this is of course, speeded up, so if it was slower, you could tell I'm not pressing hard at all, but it definitely gives that base color for you. That way when you go to use the actual color of the hair, it will appear more realistic. Also, I'm sure you guys can tell that I have a bad head cold, so that is why I sound different, but I wanted to get this video out for you guys, so bear with me, and I hope you guys can understand me good. I also wanted to put the reference photo on my phone next to me while I was drawing some, that way you can see what it actually looks like if you don't know who Sia is, and just see how I look at, the picture and, go from there. I also switched to a Faber-Castell polychromo light gray. It's cool gray actually, just because like with Prismacolors, they do have that wax bloom, where doing hair, I love using polychromos, so I'll switch between the two when I'm doing hair. I'll usually start out like with the base color with the polychromo, and then I'll switch between the two. Honestly, they blend great together, so as long as you're doing light pressure, then they work great. With this reference photo, it can be kind of tricky because the shirt is white, and then her hair, if you just look at the base color, it appears to be white. So that's when you have to be creative with your grays and your yellows when you're working with these two similar colors. And that's why shadows and highlights are very, very important, and using your different grays. So right now I am just like filling in the empty space with a cool gray polychromo, and kind of just getting the layout of the hair before I start on the other side, because see, his hair sits on her shoulders, so it appears to be longer in the front and then it goes shorter to the back, kind of like a bob cut. So that's what I'm doing, is just getting that base color on there and then the layout correctly before I go to the other side and start coloring that base color on the other side, because proportions are very important, and I always make sure that I lay down that base coat with the proportions, if that makes sense. But now I'm going to go on to the other side and just do the same thing that I did on the blonde side. Even though that the color appears to be black, you still want to do a light, cool gray on this side, because there is going to be highlights, and if you just went straight to black, it wouldn't look realistic. It would just look more like cartoon. So it's very important to do light to dark instead of doing dark to light, because it's harder for that light to be pulled out. And doing light on top of dark is very, very hard. But if you do the light first and then do the dark, the light for some reason pops more, and you're able to create highlights better. I also bought this really cool small eraser, and then like it kind of works like a mechanical pencil where you push the tip and it comes out, and it works great with prismacolors and polychromos. So now that I got the base color on, I am just going to go through and start marking where the little hairs divide between the black and the blonde in the bangs. You really don't want to press hard. Right now I'm kind of just getting that color down, so still, press a little harder than what you would with the base color. That way it starts showing up more, but don't press too hard. I know it kind of seems hard to understand, but definitely the pressure of your pencil is very, very important. And also realizing that hair doesn't, even if you just look at the picture, you would see that the hair just seems straight, but you'll have your flyaways, and hair doesn't just go straight directly down. So make sure that your lines, flow together, but don't just all go in one direction, because hair has body, and that's very important with drawing realistic hair. And what really helps me is like when I zoom into the picture, that will help me to see like the way the hair is flowing, and the flyaways that you have, instead of just looking at a distance of the picture, but to zoom in and to really see the details of the hair. And that will really, really help with the realistic look of the hair. And right now I'm using Payne's Gray. In the description below, I'll try to put all of the pencils colors that I used if you want to recreate this. That way you can see. But if you don't have either or pencil, just try to find a color that's similar to the colors that I use. As long as you're using gray tones, then you'll be perfectly fine with doing this. Because I don't start using the black until the very, very end. So as long as you have gray tones and whites, then you'll be perfectly fine. Also, with doing hair, the way I do it is I try to focus more on getting the color down with light strokes, and then once I get a couple of those layers down, then I start to focus more on the way the hair is flowing and the direction it's going, and blending with my lighter colors, that's why it's so important to do the lighter color base first. That way you're able to do this and pull it together. So that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm just like trying to fill in that empty space with the darker colors, but to leave gaps of the cooler grays poking through. That way it doesn't all just appear to be dark, because she does have highlights in her black side of the hair. So that's very important. And the way the bangs are laying on her face, you know, of course there's going to be a shadow from the bangs to the face, so you also want to create that shadow but not mess up your skin tone. And as you can tell, when I get to the bottom of the bangs, I'm not pressing hard, that way it doesn't mess up the color pigment on the face. And that's why I love polychromo so much when it comes to drawing realistic things, is because it doesn't leave that wax bloom. So when you are doing this, it's not going to smudge onto the portrait of the skin. And you know, you don't have to worry about that. Where with Prismacolors, you have to be more careful because it does have that wax bloom. So if you are using Prismacolors, just be very cautious of that, because it will get on the skin. Because Prismacolors are wax-based and polychromos are oil-based, so that's the difference between the two. Also, making sure that your pencil is very sharp really helps with, you know, realistic hair with both pencils. You'll have to sharpen your Prismacolor pencil more, but just making sure that has a fine point tip will help with that wax bloom if you're using the Prismacolor. But even if you are using a polychromo, still making sure that your pencil is very, very sharp will really help get in the tooth of the paper and appear more realistic. But the key to, you know, drawing realistic hair is having patience and applying multiple layers of the different colors of the gray for this particular piece. So that's what I'm doing on the same side on this with my darker colors, is I'm just getting the placement right, the way that the hair flows around the face, and then on the shoulders on her shirt. And like I explained before, how the front in her face is more, it's longer, and then it goes shorter into the back sitting on the shoulders. So that's what I'm using, the same gray with the polychromo, and just going through and adding depth and getting the placement right. And normally you would not want your hand to be sitting on your face that you just drew, but I actually sprayed the face before I started doing the hair, which is why I'm able to keep my hand there. But if you haven't sprayed, you know, fixative spray on your drawing, then you definitely want to have like a piece of paper underneath your hand so you're not smudging your face, because that will happen. But I came across this fixative spray that I really like, and I'll put it in the description below if you're interested in getting it as well. And I highly recommend it because it also like saves your drawing and makes it last longer and all of that good stuff. And guys, when you are drawing the hair around the face, don't just dive into doing black dark shadows around the cheekbone and the neck bone and the shirt, because that will look so unrealistic and take away from the picture of it looking real. So instead, just do light strokes like I did with my warmer gray. And then, you know, once you get to the last stages of the black, you'll be able to do more of the shadows. So now that I have those couple layers down, I'm able to go back and look and see where I need to do like darker color and then use a lighter color and bring out the realistic look to the hair, and start adding more detail to the hair. So the layers are definitely very, very important. And if you guys start to notice that at the end of the bangs, I started to notice that the color was sticking more there because of all of the layers that I used on the face. So what I did is I took my pencil and started pulling up, and it really helped to spread out that that buildup, which it's not wax buildup because it's polychromo, but I think it's just the color was sticking better there just because of the other colors that I used on the face. So that's what I'm doing here, is I'm just taking darker colors and kind of pulling it up. That way it kind of blends better. And now I'm using black to start building the color of the actual hair. And now I'll start to focus more of the way the hair is flowing and the direction I'm going, which, like I said previously, zooming into your reference photo and seeing where the hair is actually falling in the reference photo and start pulling the hair together and going in that direction really, really helps. And I don't show you, but I sharpen my black pencil quite frequently just to make sure that that's a very fine point tip, because you want it to be very sharp. That way you can get those very tiny strands of hair, and so it looks realistic. And make sure that you don't just stop when you draw the lines, but that you follow those lines going up, because then you'll just have a mess on your hands and it won't look realistic. At times, you'll see me stop, but then I'll go back and connect, the lines. That way it looks realistic and pulls together and flows nicely. And, here, like I told you, I'm going back and adding the shadows of the hair to the cheekbone and the neck. But I'm not like just completely coloring it in, because you want it to still look realistic. And also using a spray before you start on the hair, if you're like me and you did the skin tone first, that will really help when you're getting close to like this. They won't smudge, and you won't see the black on the face, and that's really nerve-wracking, especially using black on the face or close to the face, is that black usually smudges onto the face, and so that can be frustrating. So using that spray really, really helps that. One thing that I don't like to do personally is just do a straight line all the way down, because then it'll just look like I explained earlier, just the straight, no depth to the hair lines, and you don't want that. So of course you want to connect your hairlines, but you also don't want to just do straight lines all the way down, because you won't have any body to the hair and it won't look realistic at all. So that's how I do it, is I will start doing small strokes, and then I'll go back to the bottom and kind of connect with some body to it, as you can see what I'm doing. Because also in some parts of her hair there is highlights where the light is reflecting on her hair, so the dark patches will blend into the highlights. So that's another reason why you don't want to just do long lines, because then you'll mess up your highlights as well. In the tip of her hair, like the bottom of it, it appears to be darker, so that's why I am doing harder pressure, and it seems like I'm filling it in more with the black, because in the reference photo you don't see as much highlights on the ends, so that is why I am doing harder pressure and filling in more. Different hair types are different, but in this particular reference photo of Sia, that is how her hair appears to be, which is why I'm doing it that way. But normally, well, depending on the reference photo, but normally you wouldn't want to just fill in like that, but that's how the reference photo appears to be, so that's what I'm doing. And now that I got like a lot of the layers down for the hair, I just need to go back and like make sure that the bow pops out with the shadow and outline it better. That way I need to see where I still need to color and put more lines into the hair. And you want the very bottom where the bow is sitting on the head to be the darkest spot, and then you'll work yourself up to lighter colors with the bow, which is why I'm using black. So now that I finished on the black side, I am taking a cream for the blonde side. That way it, appears to be more blonde in that yellow tint that has that look in the reference photo. So I'm just going through and adding a base, well, not really a base layer, but that second layer onto the blonde side with the cream. A little bit more pressure, but not much. And then I just took my paintbrush and brushed away the wax bloom that I told you about, and filling in where I use that French gray, and I'm just kind of blending with the cream. That way it looks more blonde and more realistic. And this is Prismacolor. And then I'm just going through and taking a warm gray and starting to add tiny hair strokes to the blonde, so you can see the hair more around the neck and the cheeks, because that's where your shadows will be, is around there. So that's why I'm using the warm gray and just adding some dark shadows in the hair throughout the hair. And again, I apologize, guys, that I'm so sick. I hope you guys have been able to understand me, but I really wanted to get this video out for you guys. So I hope you guys can understand me okay. My voice isn't gone, but it's just deeper because of having this head cold. But I'm just mainly focusing on getting some depth into the hair so it looks more realistic, and you definitely want to add different colors of the grays even in the blonde. Even though it's blonde, you still want to, because there's going to be shadows in the hair. So that's what I'm doing, is just creating that. And sometimes I'll see on, I think it's done, but I'm like, oh wait, I need to go back over here. So that's what I'm doing, is just correcting spots that I see. So now I am taking black and I'm kind of going around her cheekbones to kind of pull down some of the hairs that were stopping, and that way it looks more realistic in the shadows, and kind of pulling that down to the end of the hairs. So guys, that's basically it with Sia's hair. Right now I'm just going to start working on this shirt, but I hope this was really helpful. If you have any questions, please do comment down below, and I will be sure to answer all the questions that you have. Also, make sure that you comment if you'd like to see a video of me doing Sia's bow, but please do give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks, guys.